Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. Everybody knows this channel is kind of like the best of both worlds, right? Role playing and wargaming. And today I've got something that actually hits both barrels. So basically, a few weeks ago, I did a video on why you should be playing King Arthur from SPI. It was an old style war game. It really was a lot of fun. I felt like I was in the middle. I could see the medieval back and forth battle. I could see it happening and the chaos that would ensue. But today I'm going to be talking to you about the role-playing equivalent to King Arthur, and it's all about knights, and some of them in shining armor, but also the temptations that they face, because not all knights are equal. Today I'm going to be going over with you why you should be playing Pendragon role-playing game from Chaosium. So it should be no surprise that Chaosium, the guys that made Call of Cthulhu, is going to make Pendragon more of a character-focused game. Okay, it's all about the narrative. These are not going to be two-dimensional characters whatsoever, and this whole game is based on how your characters interact with certain situations. And there are a lot of situations. Even the combat system is based on those situations, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. But first, let's go over some basics real quick. So let's talk about probably the best thing that Pendragon has to offer here, which I highly suggest you use in your own role-playing games, especially if you're playing an OSR game like the Fantasy Trip or original Dungeons & Dragons or the Old School Essentials or anything like that, where the characters are a little bit more two-dimensional to begin with, right? And this is the idea of traits. As we can see here, Chaosium for Pendragon gives us all these trait pairs, as they're called. You have chaste versus lustful, energetic versus lazy, forgiving and vengeful. The exact opposites on each spectrum and each idea of a trait. Now, it works on a 20 must system, so otherwise you have 20 points to distribute between the two. 20, if you give one a 20, which means you're an absolute extreme, this is the way you're going to act for your character. Then the other trait pair is going to be at 0, which you never act that way. And the thing is, at first you might think, well, hey, this doesn't that takes away that extreme takes away my role-playing ability to act the way I want to. Well, I'm going to disagree on that because I thought this myself. But after all, when we buy characters traits in other games, like you buy a disadvantage to say you're lazy, okay, but you get points or you get skill points to spend over here that benefit you. That's part of the deal. So when laziness comes up, you must act lazy. At least with this system that we're going to be talking about here, there generally is a way to fight free of that. Now, mind you, again, if it's a 20, maybe not. Okay, but let's just go over how this works. So let's take the first example, chaste versus lustful, right? So normally if you said to your game master, okay, I'm going to be lustful tonight at this party, game master probably wouldn't fight it and all. He would just probably say, okay, who are you approaching? Right? While if you were to say, I'm going to be chaste, he's going to say, okay, you're going to have to roll for that. And then there's modifiers. So otherwise, we're going to be rolling a d20 and we need a 4 or less. That's that's a 20% chance of you actually making it. But then there's modifiers, have you been drinking that night? Is she really pretty? Is it 2 o'clock in the morning? Et cetera, et cetera. And then you roll on, and if you make it, then you get to be chaste. But if you fail, then you get to roll against lustful. Now, this seems weird because, wait a minute, if I fail chaste, doesn't that mean I'm automatically lustful? No, it doesn't. Because then if you fail the lustful roll, then you get to go back, it goes back to the player and defaults to them to make their original choice. Okay, so and that is one of the interesting things here. There's so many here. Now, mind you, if you were to use this for your own role-playing game, there might be some of them that you could do more than others. I think this really sets it apart. Is really a good something to go with. I mean, would there be more traits? There probably is. My only concern when looking at this is if this big plethora of traits that would be too much to look through. Here you can kind of easily go boom, 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 boom. Would I add a few to it or delete a few of these out? Maybe. But then again, it depends on the role-playing game that you're playing. But for Pendragon, these are absolutely perfect. There are only 5 characteristics in Pendragon, and 4 of them have to do with combat. Size, dexterity, strength, and constitution all of them have to do with combat, and all the derived characteristics that you see below there are all based on those four. And it makes for, when you get to the combat system, it makes for some interesting situations because they're all referenced quite often. It's not just based off of one role. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are going to be going on here. And the fifth characteristic is appeal, and it is not it's a catch-all for all your social stuff, whether you're based on your appearance, savoir-faire, fast talking, anything right there is based on appeal. Okay, now you may also notice that there is not an intelligence characteristic. And they explain that, and it makes sense. I had to think of it for a while there, because they basically say, if you want to know a thing, it's all about skills. Okay, and the reason for that is because, one, there is a point buy system in this, where if you did want to make a character that knew a lot of things, well, now you're putting points into intelligence, and it it kind of weakens a character in the combat oriented stuff, which they get into kind of heavy. It's not a combat heavy game, it seems like, but when they do have it, they want they want those to matter because of the situations that arise. And it's really not a problem not to have the intelligence, because these are knights. They're not scholarly sitting in a tower. They're out doing things. So this is the stuff they would know. They can be intelligent or less intelligent, and it also makes it for the guys that are actually less intelligent to know their skills really well too. Because, literacy might be a skill that you would have to be highly intelligent on. But playing an instrument, dancing, courtesy, not everything has to be, you don't have to be high intelligence to do well. You just do it a lot. And I imagine people back in those days were a lot more specialized than the more jack of all trades people we have in our modern society. So, of course, this being a character-driven game, we have to have some chances for inner conflict and temptation here. And this is where passions come in, because they often work in opposition to some of your stronger traits. The only difference between passions and traits sometimes really comes down to there's no sliding scale. There's no opposite. If you hate the Saxons, you hate the Saxons. That's just all there is to it. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't run opposite to other feelings sometimes. For instance, you hate the Saxons, but you don't want to kill every woman and child in this village. So you're checking your passion against your merciful trait. Okay, and then you roll on the die, and then your passion either wins out or it doesn't. Now the thing is, this can also have some other effects. Like sometimes you can gain honor from it, but also you can get melancholy. These passions are very strong emotions, and whether you kill all these men and women, these women and children or not in this village, you're either going to get melancholy about it, which is a big depressional state where for a few hours or days and stuff like that, you have to role play that you're out of it for a while, or you could just go mad and you have to hand in your character sheet to the game master. It's almost as if they were dead for at least a little while before maybe they come back into play. If I had to describe Pendragon's combat system, it would be one of narrative immersion, okay? They do everything to try to make, again, I'll get into situations here, but they just want to make you feel it. So basically, when two opposing forces are fighting, they're both rolling at the same time, and then you're using the combat skill results for both players to see what happens. Do they both do a critical success and just kill themselves, kind of like King Arthur and Mordred did in Excalibur, or do they just both fumble all over the place, break each other's weapons, and just have to go fisticuffs? That's one of the things. Another thing is the idea of their weapons in general. It's more than just how much damage it does. Matter of fact, damage in the weapon seems kind of pretty straightforward. There's not all kinds of crazy die types, because the game does work only on D6s and a D20. D20s for skills and traits and stuff, where damage comes down to the 1d6, 2d6, and that's pretty much it. But the thing is, it also, of course, it has weapon skills, but it also separates itself by foot or mounted, which is a different thing that, it's in other games, like the Fantasy Trip has mounted combat, and of course this definitely does, but the idea that they talk about the weapons, whether they can be used foot or mounted, adds another level of complexity. In other words, okay, I'm very skilled with this weapon, but I can only use it on my horse, and now I'm on my feet, and I got to use a different skill for this weapon. So those things can happen. Plus, these have their own advantages and disadvantages. Every weapon in the game generally has something or other going on, and whether it attacks shields differently or it gets broken on a tie. Again, what I like about that, as opposed to your regular critical hits, like let's say in the fantasy trip, if you roll a fumble, an 18 or something like that, you break your weapon. However, it could be the same percentage chance here, but it's a tie in Pendragon, and the thing is, though, you're both rolling. So it actually, the opposing character that makes that happen to you can get the feeling that they did something, while this just happened if you're playing by chance. So again, it's more of that combat narrative immersion. And adding more to the idea of narrative immersion, where the battles always seem different, where other games it would be like, I hack you, I hack me, maybe a few differences in maneuvers and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's really going to be like the same battle over and over again. Here, especially with horses, you are going to be doing mounted combat a lot. Other games have their own mounted combat rules, and that's like the Fantasy Trip, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever. But the thing is, the only time they actually use those usually is as an aside or something to throw the characters off. Oh, you forgot those rules, did you? Here you're definitely going to know mounted combat, and the horses have their own statistics on top of all that. Not only that, then you have squires that in the middle of some combats, because not all combats are quick and dirty, you can give your squire something to do or give them an order, and they have to roll to see if they follow it, and they have their own little statistics over here. So really, it gives lots of opportunities for the game master to tweak things to make special things happen within a combat. You could just do the basics and probably have a really interesting story to tell, other than I slashed at the guy. So if you haven't knocked you off the fence yet of whether to pick up Pendragon or not, let me give you a few fence knocker offers. First off, if you ever held this book in your hand and went through it, that would probably be enough for a lot of you, because this game is beautifully laid out. I don't mean just beautiful as far as the illustrations, even though it is, or just the color of everything. I mean the layout. It is easy to read rules. Everything's clear. It's just a beautiful work of art. This is a great book, and of course this contains everything you need to know how to play. But I would also suggest to you, even if you did get the core rule book, that you go ahead and grab the starter set no matter what. And it's only $30. And this is a beautiful little box set. I love this box, not just because of this, but because if you hold this, it feels just as packed as the core rule book does. It's about as heavy. Okay, because there's a couple of things in it. First off, I guess I'm going to have to open this, but there's some beautiful dice that makes me feel like they made this specifically for Pendragon. So here's the 6-sided dice here, and they give you a nice little D20 as well. So there's a lot going on there, but then they also give you, and these books are about 40 to 60 pages a piece, they're giving you the Sword in the Stone, which is an adventure. It's a programmed adventure. I wouldn't say choose your own adventure necessarily, because there are choices to be made, but for the most part, I almost feel like it's on rails a little bit, because the idea of it, because you're reading this book without even reading the second book, which is, of course, the main rules. But the thing is, they get you into the game without even having to open the main rule book, so that's nice. But after you do read the main rule book, which tells you everything you need to play, sure, you're going to want the core book sooner or later and stuff like that, but you get plenty of mileage out of this second book. And of course, the third book is the Sword Campaign, which means, of course, hours of playtime on top of that before you even get into the core rulebook. And of course, it has pre-generated characters, some appendices for like tournaments and such. Now, there's just a lot in this starter set. They really are trying to entice you to play this game. And for $30 to find out if you like it or not, oh, it's an easy purchase. And speaking of which, as far as lengthening your world of Pendragon, because they do have some They do have some, of course, other adventures and campaigns. The Grey Knight campaign here, and a few others. I know they have the new Game Masters book out now. But if you need even more material to play, and did you not think I was going to mention Columbia Games' Harn World at this time? It is perfect for Pendragon. I mean, you can just go right with it and just use that for the Harn World system. I mean, the Harn World setting. You can use Pendragon with it, in conjunction with it. Use the system and just play Harn World. You absolutely can do it. Guys, links are down below to buy all these things, including a beautiful map of Harn World for free. And that is the video of Pendragon, and I'll see you next time.